Have you ever hidden from your own life only to discover someone else was hiding right beside you? Rain hammered the pavement like a warning. Eliana Collins ran not because she wanted to, but because staying still meant facing him again. Her cheap cardigan clung to her shoulders, soaked through. The church doors appeared through the downpour like salvation itself. She shoved them open and stumbled inside, gasping. The confessional booth stood in the corner, dark and silent. She yanked the door open, expecting a priest, and collided with a man in a tailored gray suit instead. He looked up. Tired eyes. A face that didn't belong in a place like this. "Are you hiding from someone too?" he said slowly. "Or am I the only runaway today?" This wasn't some heartwarming coincidence. This was survival. Eliana had spent the last 3 years as a receptionist at a mid-tier consulting firm, the kind of job where people looked through you, not at you. She was the shy girl who wore the same rotation of cardigans, kept her head down, and apologized before she spoke. And Harper Flynn, her ex-boyfriend, still treated her like property he'd misplaced. He'd shown up at her office that morning, smiling that manipulative smile. "I need a loan, Ellie, just until I get back on my feet." She'd said no. For the first time in 3 years, she'd said no. So he followed her, across 2 blocks, into the rain. Right up to the church steps, the one place she thought she'd be safe. She thought the confessional would hide her. She was wrong. The man in the suit studied her with the kind of calm that only came from carrying weight for too long. "You don't have to tell me," he said quietly. "But if you need 5 minutes of silence, I can give you that." Eliana's throat tightened. When was the last time someone had offered her anything without wanting something back? She pressed her palms against her knees, trying to stop them from shaking. Her receptionist badge hung crooked on her cardigan, Eliana Collins' front desk, a label that felt more like a sentence. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to interrupt. Stop apologizing." His voice was firm, but not unkind. "You didn't do anything wrong." She looked at him then. Really looked. He wasn't waiting for a priest. He was hiding from something bigger. "I'm supposed to be getting married right now," he said almost to himself. Eliana blinked. "What?" He nodded toward the stained glass window. The wedding cathedrals across the plaza, 200 guests, orchestral quartet. My mother picked the flowers. "Then why are you—" "Because it's not real." He leaned back against the wooden partition, exhaling slowly. "The wedding? The vows? None of it? It's just another contract my family wants me to sign." Eliana stared at him, her fear momentarily replaced by disbelief. This man, this clearly wealthy, clearly powerful man, was running away from his own wedding. And somehow he'd ended up in the same confessional as a shy girl hiding from her ex. He extended his hand. "Franklin Hale." She hesitated, then took it. "Eliana." His grip was steady, warm. "Well, Eliana," he said, standing. "I think we both just bought ourselves a little more time. But how long could 2 runaways hide before their pasts caught up with them?" Franklin glanced toward the church entrance. Through the rain-streaked glass shadows moved along the plaza. His wedding party was searching. "Your ex," he said. "Is he the type to give up easily?" Eliana shook her head, voice barely audible. "He never gives up. He just waits." "Then we have a problem." Franklin's jaw tightened. "Because mine don't give up either." For a moment they just stood there, 2 strangers bound by the same desperate need to disappear. Then Harper's voice echoed through the church. "Ellie, I know you're in here." Eliana's breath caught. Franklin saw the fear flash across her face, the kind of fear that came from years of being worn down piece by piece. He made a decision. Walk with me, he said quietly. He won't touch you. You don't understand. I do. Franklin's voice was steady, certain. Men like him, they only have power when you're alone. Harper appeared at the end of the aisle, rain dripping from his leather jacket. His smile was sharp, predatory. There you are, babe. We need to talk. Franklin stepped forward, placing himself between Harper and Eliana. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. She's with me. Harper's eyes narrowed, sizing Franklin up. The expensive suit. The quiet authority. He hesitated just for a second, but it was enough. Franklin extended his arm toward Eliana. Ready? She looked at his hand like it was a lifeline she didn't deserve. Then she took it. They walked past Harper together. Slowly. Deliberately. And Harper, for all his manipulation, all his control, stepped aside. Once they were outside, Eliana exhaled shakily. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Franklin hailed a cab. We're not safe here. Not until they stop looking. 20 minutes later, they sat in a corner cafe 3 blocks away, far enough to breathe, close enough to still feel hunted. Franklin's phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts from his mother, his assistant, the wedding planner. He silenced it. Eliana wrapped her hands around a cup of tea she hadn't touched. Why did you help me? Because I know what it's like to feel trapped by someone else's version of your life. He paused. That wedding wasn't mine. It was theirs. He pulled a folder from his briefcase, force of habit even in crisis. A contract. Pages of dense legal text. This is what I was supposed to sign today. Merger agreement. My family's been negotiating it for months. Eliana glanced at the document, then looked away. I wouldn't understand it anyway. Franklin frowned. Why do you say that? Because I'm a receptionist. The words came out flat, defeated. I answer phones. I schedule meetings. That's all I'm good for. That's not what I asked. Eliana bit her lip. I used to study law. Before my mom got sick. Before I had to drop everything. She stopped herself. It doesn't matter. I never finished. Franklin slid the contract toward her. Humor me. If you see anything wrong, tell me. She shook her head. Your lawyers already reviewed it. And they've missed things before. His voice went quiet, almost bitter. Big things. Something in his tone made her look up. There was a wound there. Old, but still bleeding. Eliana hesitated, then pulled the contract closer. Her eyes moved across the page slowly at first, then faster. Her fingers traced a clause buried in the Third Amendment. This section, she said softly. Subsection 4B, the liability cap. Franklin leaned forward. What about it? It's phrased to protect the other party's assets in perpetuity. But the reciprocal clause on your side, it expires after 18 months. She looked up, meeting his eyes. Whoever wrote this knew exactly what they were doing. Franklin stared at her, then at the contract, then back at her. My legal team reviewed this for 6 weeks. They missed it. Eliana's voice was stronger now. Or they didn't think it mattered. It matters. Franklin sat back, something shifting in his expression. You caught that in 5 minutes. Eliana flushed. I noticed details. No. Franklin's voice was firm. You're brilliant. You just don't know it yet. For the first time in years, Eliana felt something she'd forgotten existed. She felt seen. Franklin's phone buzzed again. This time he answered. Logan, no, I'm not coming back to the wedding. Because the contract's flawed. Yes, I'm sure. He glanced at Eliana. I'll explain later. He hung up and looked at her seriously. I need your help. Eliana blinked. What? My company, Hale Enterprises. We're negotiating 3 major deals right now, and if my lawyers missed something this obvious. He paused. Would you review them? I'm not a lawyer. But you should be. Franklin's gaze was steady. And until you are, I need someone I can trust. Someone who sees what others miss. Eliana's hands trembled around her teacup. Why would you trust me? You don't even know me. I know you ran into a church in the rain to escape someone who hurt you, Franklin said quietly. I know you apologized for existing, and I know you just saved me from signing a contract that would have cost me everything. He leaned forward. That's enough. Could a shy girl who'd been invisible for years really help a runaway CEO, or were they both just delaying the inevitable? For 2 weeks, Eliana lived in a strange new reality. Franklin hired her not as a receptionist, but as a contract consultant. Off the books. Paid in cash. No one at Hale Enterprises knew who she was or why she was there. She worked from a small office on the executive floor, reviewing documents Franklin's legal team had already approved. And she found mistakes. Dozens of them. Misplaced commas that shifted liability. Clauses that contradicted each other. Loopholes wide enough to destroy the company. Franklin listened to every word she said. For the first time in her life, Eliana felt like she mattered. But Harper hadn't disappeared. He'd just been waiting. It started with an email. Eliana's former manager at the consulting firm called, her voice tight with panic. Eliana, we have a serious problem. A document was sent to our biggest client yesterday under your name. It contained confidential financial data. Eliana's blood went cold. That's impossible. I don't work there anymore. Your email account is still active, and the IP address traces back to your old workstation. I didn't send anything. I haven't logged in since I left. Then someone else did, using your credentials. The call ended. Eliana sat frozen, her mind racing. Harper. He'd set up her laptop years ago, installed her email, created her passwords. He still had access to everything. Within hours, the damage spread. The consulting firm terminated her contract. Hale Enterprises received an anonymous tip that Eliana had been leaking information. Logan, Franklin's deputy director, launched an internal investigation. Franklin tried to intervene, but even he couldn't stop it. I believe you, he told her in his office voice low, but I need proof. Eliana stood in front of his desk, her cardigan clutched tight around her shoulders. You should let me go. What? Everyone thinks I did this, and maybe... Her voice cracked. Maybe they're right. Maybe I ruin everything I touch. Eliana. I can't depend on you to fix this. Tears welled in her eyes. I need to solve my own problems, by myself. She turned and walked out before he could respond. Eliana returned to her tiny studio apartment, the one with the leaking faucet and the view of a brick wall. She sat on the edge of her bed and stared at her phone. Her mother's name glowed on the screen. She called. Ellie, sweetheart, is everything okay? Eliana forced brightness into her voice. Yeah, Mom. Everything's fine. How are you feeling? Her mother lived in a state-funded nursing facility 3 hours away, the kind with peeling wallpaper and overworked nurses. Eliana sent every spare dollar she had to cover the gaps. Insurance didn't. I'm good, honey, eating, sleeping. Don't you worry about me. Her mother's voice softened. But you sound tired. I'm okay. Eliana. Her mother's tone shifted, gentle but firm. You've been carrying the world since you were 24 years old. It's okay to set it down sometimes. Eliana's throat tightened. I don't know how. Then learn, baby. Learn. They talked for 20 more minutes about nothing important. When the call ended, Eliana lay back on her bed and let the tears come. Harper showed up the next morning. He knocked on her door at 7 a.m., holding coffee and wearing that same smile. "Hey, Ellie. Heard you've been having a rough week." Eliana didn't open the door all the way. "What do you want, Harper? Just checking in." He leaned against the doorframe. "You know, if you need help, I could talk to some people. Clear your name. You're the one who destroyed my reputation." Harper's smile didn't falter. "I don't know what you're talking about. You hacked my email. You sent that document. Prove it." His voice went cold. "Oh, wait, you can't. Because you're just a receptionist who couldn't even finish law school." Eliana's hands shook. "Leave." Harper straightened, adjusting his jacket. "You'll come back to me eventually, Ellie. You always do." He walked away, whistling. Eliana closed the door and locked it. Then she sat on the floor and wrapped her arms around her knees. She'd hit bottom. The next day, she took a temporary job at a small public library. Minimum wage, shelving books. No one asked about her past. It was quiet, safe, empty. One afternoon, an older woman came in, silver hair, kind eyes, a cashmere coat that whispered wealth without shouting it. She approached Eliana at the front desk. "Excuse me, dear. Do you have anything on corporate law, specifically contract disputes?" Eliana blinked. "Third floor, section 340. The woman smiled warmly. "Thank you. You know, you remind me of someone." "Who?" "My son." The woman tilted her head, studying her. "He used to hide too." Eliana's breath caught. The woman extended her hand. "Eleanor Hale, Franklin's mother." Eleanor sat down across from Eliana in the library's reading alcove. This wasn't the kind of inspirational speech you'd expect from a CEO's mother. It was quieter, more personal. "He talks about you," Eleanor said gently. "Not by name, but I know my son. He doesn't trust easily." "He shouldn't trust me," Eliana whispered. "Everyone thinks I'm guilty." "And what do you think?" Eliana looked down at her hands. "I think I'm tired of being the shadow in my own life." Eleanor reached across the table and took her hand. "Shadows only appear when there's light behind them, child." Her voice was soft but unyielding. "You're not fading. You're stepping out." Eliana's vision blurred with tears. Eleanor squeezed her hand. "My son needs someone like you. Not because you're perfect, but because you understand what it's like to be broken." "I don't know how to help him." "Yes, you do." Eleanor stood, gathering her coat. "You just have to decide you're worth helping first." She left a business card on the table. Eleanor Hale, board member, Hale Enterprises. Could Eliana rise from the ashes, or would Harper's final move destroy them both? 3 days later, Franklin's world exploded. A confidential merger agreement one Eliana had reviewed was leaked to a competitor. The press ran with it. Hale Enterprises stock dropped 12% in a single morning. Logan called an emergency board meeting. "We have a leak," he announced, placing a folder on the conference table. "And all evidence points to one person." He opened the folder. Inside was a printout of email logs, IP addresses, access timestamps, all traced back to Eliana Collins. Franklin stood at the head of the table, jaw tight. "She didn't do this." "With respect, sir, the evidence is clear." Logan's voice was measured, almost sympathetic. "She had access, she had motive, and she has a history of compromised credentials. She was set up." "By whom?" Logan gestured to the documents. "Everything leads back to her." One of the board members leaned forward. Franklin, we understand your personal investment in this situation, but the company comes first. I know that, Franklin said evenly, which is why I'm telling you she didn't do this. Then prove it. Franklin couldn't. The board voted. Eliana's consulting contract was terminated. Legal action was pending. Franklin left the boardroom and went straight to his office. He dialed Eliana's number. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. Eliana saw the news on her phone. Hale Enterprises faces massive leak. Former consultant under investigation. Her name wasn't in the article, but it didn't need to be. Everyone would know soon enough. She sat in her apartment staring at the wall. Harper had won. He'd systematically destroyed every piece of progress she'd made. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have just stayed with me, Ellie. Now you're nothing again. She didn't reply. Eleanor called that evening. I heard what happened. Eliana's voice was hollow. Then you know I'm finished. Are you? What else is there? I've lost everything. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Then, when Franklin was 7 years old, he watched his father collapse during a board meeting. He took over the company at 26 because no one else could. He's carried that weight every day since. Eliana listened confused. My son has been running from his own life for years, Eleanor continued. But when he talks about you, I hear something I haven't heard in a long time. What hope? Eleanor's voice softened. He believes in you, Eliana, even when you don't believe in yourself. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only one who can prove Harper wrong. Eleanor paused. Not for Franklin, for you. The call ended. Eliana sat in the silence. Then she opened her laptop. She worked through the night. If Harper had framed her, there would be a trail. Digital breadcrumbs, patterns. She pulled up the leaked contract, compared it to the original version she'd reviewed. Timestamps, metadata, access logs, and there buried in the file properties was a secondary IP address, not hers. She cross-referenced it with the email logs from her old consulting firm. Same address, same login pattern. Harper had accessed her old account remotely using credentials he'd installed years ago. Then he'd used that access to create a false trail leading back to her. But he'd made one mistake. He'd logged in from his home network. Eliana pulled the IP records, matched them to his address, and compiled everything into a single document. Then she called Logan. I need 10 minutes in the boardroom, she said firmly. I know who leaked the contract. The next morning, Eliana walked into Hale Enterprises for the first time since the scandal broke. Every head turned. Whispers followed her down the hallway. She didn't care. She walked into the boardroom. Franklin was there, Logan, 5 board members. You have 5 minutes, Logan said coolly. Eliana placed a USB drive on the table. But the leak wasn't internal. It was engineered by Harper Flynn, my ex-boyfriend. She opened her laptop and projected the evidence onto the screen. He accessed my old email account using credentials he installed 3 years ago. He monitored my activity at Hale Enterprises, identified which contracts I reviewed, and leaked the merger agreement to frame me. She pulled up IP logs, timestamps, login records. This is his home address. This is his network. And this. She highlighted a series of emails. This is proof he was in contact with your competitor 2 weeks before the leak. The room went silent. Logan leaned forward, studying the screen. How did you find this? Because I know how he operates. Eliana's voice was steady now. And I know what he's capable of. Franklin spoke for the first time. If we had signed that original merger agreement, the one before Eliana's revisions, Harper's contact would have had access to our patents for a decade. He looked at the board. Eliana didn't just clear her name. She saved this company. One of the board members turned to Logan. "Verify this, immediately." Logan nodded, already making calls. Within an hour, the police were involved. Harper was arrested at his apartment, laptop seized. Every lie, every manipulation, every calculated move to destroy Eliana, exposed. Franklin found Eliana on the rooftop terrace an hour later. She stood at the railing, looking out over the city. "You did it," he said quietly. "I just showed them the truth." "You saved yourself." Franklin stepped beside her. "No one else could have done that." Eliana turned to face him. "Why did you believe me even when no one else did?" Franklin was quiet for a long moment. "Because I spent my whole life being chosen for things I never wanted," he said. "Chosen to run a company. Chosen for that wedding. Chosen to live a life that wasn't mine." He looked at her. "You're the first person I wanted to choose." Eliana's breath caught. "And I was told I was too quiet to matter," she whispered. "That I was just the shy girl in the corner. But you saw me." Franklin smiled, soft, genuine. "No, you stepped into the light yourself. I just followed it." But after everything they'd survived, could two broken people truly heal together? The aftermath came in waves. Harper was charged with corporate espionage, identity theft, and fraud. His trial date was set for 6 months out, but his lawyer had already hinted at a plea deal. The evidence was overwhelming. His apartment had been full of documents, files. He'd stolen emails, he'd intercepted plans he'd made to systematically destroy Eliana's life. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about control. Eliana's name was cleared publicly. Hale Enterprises issued a formal apology and offered her a full-time position as senior contract analyst. She accepted. But the real work wasn't about titles or salaries. It was about learning to stand in the light without flinching. Franklin found her in the office late one Thursday evening. She was reviewing a contract red pen in hand, utterly absorbed. Classical music played softly from her phone. A half-empty cup of tea sat on her desk. She looked peaceful. "You're still here," he said from the doorway. Eliana looked up, startled. "I wanted to finish before tomorrow's meeting." "It's 9:30. "I know." She set down her pen. "But this matters." Franklin walked into the office and sat across from her. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you drop out of law school?" Eliana's expression shifted. "My mom got sick. Stage 3 lymphoma. She needed treatments and insurance didn't cover half of it." She paused. "I took the receptionist job because it had benefits. I told myself it was temporary. But it wasn't." "No." Eliana's voice went soft. 3 years turned into a life I didn't recognize. And then Harper." She trailed off. "He made you believe you couldn't do better." "He made me believe I couldn't do anything." She looked down at the contract in front of her. "That this," she gestured to the documents, "was impossible for someone like me." Franklin leaned back, processing. "Do you regret it?" "Dropping out," Eliana considered. "Sometimes, but I don't regret taking care of her. She's all I have." "How is she now?" "In remission. Stable." Eliana smiled faintly. "She keeps telling me to stop worrying about her and start living my own life." "She's right." Eliana laughed quietly. "I know." Franklin stood moving to the window. The city stretched out below them, lights flickering in the darkness like tiny promises. "I need to tell you something," he said. About why I ran from that wedding. Eliana waited. I was engaged once, 5 years ago. Franklin's voice was measured, controlled. Her name was Grace. She was brilliant, kind, everything I thought I wanted. What happened? A contract. He turned to face Eliana. My legal team missed a clause in a partnership agreement. It triggered a liability issue that destroyed one of our subsidiaries. Grace's father lost his entire investment. Eliana's breath caught. She ended the engagement 3 days later. Franklin continued. We said she couldn't marry someone whose company destroyed her family. That wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? Franklin's jaw tightened. I signed the contract. I trusted the wrong people, and I lost her because of it. He turned back to the window. After that, I couldn't trust anyone. Not my lawyers, not my advisors, certainly not myself. He paused. So when my family arranged that wedding to the daughter of a business partner, I just went along with it. It was easier than fighting. Until you couldn't anymore. Until I couldn't anymore. He agreed. Is that why you hired me? Eliana asked quietly. Because I catch things your lawyers miss. At first, yes, Franklin met her eyes. But then I realized something. You don't just catch mistakes. You see people. What do you mean? You saw me in that confessional, Franklin said. Not the CEO, not the runaway groom, just me. He paused. No one's done that in a long time. Eliana stood crossing to where he stood by the window. I spent 3 years believing I was invisible, she said. That my only value was answering phones and scheduling meetings. Harper reinforced that every day. You were never invisible. I was to myself. Eliana's voice trembled slightly. But you made me remember who I used to be, before I got scared, before I started apologizing for existing. Franklin turned to face her fully. Are you still scared? Yes. Eliana smiled, fragile but real. But I'm learning that's okay. They stood in the quiet office, the city humming below them. My mother likes you, Franklin said suddenly. Eliana blinked. Eleanor, how do you? She told me she met you at the library, said you were hiding. He smiled. Apparently she has a gift for finding runaways. She told me shadows only appear when there's light behind them. That sounds like her. Franklin's expression softened. She also said I'd be an idiot if I let you go. She said that in more elegant terms, but yes. Eliana laughed, light, genuine. The sound filled the office. Franklin, what are we doing? I don't know, he admitted. But I know I don't want to stop. I don't either. Franklin reached for her hand, slow, tentative, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. I'm not good at this, he said quietly. At letting people in. Neither am I. Then maybe, Franklin said, we can figure it out together. This wasn't some grand romantic gesture. It was something quieter, something real, something heartwarming. Two people once lost, now finding their way towards something genuine. 3 months later, Eliana stood at the edge of the Hudson River, watching the evening light ripple across the water. The air was crisp with early autumn. Leaves drifted past on the breeze, gold and amber. Franklin appeared beside her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might be here, he said, handing her one. It's quiet, Eliana replied. I needed quiet. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. A jogger passed by. A couple walked their dog. Life moved around them in easy rhythms. I went to see my mom yesterday, Eliana said. Told her about the promotion. What did she say? She cried. Then she told me she always knew I'd find my way back. Eliana smiled. She also asked about you. Franklin raised an eyebrow. What did you tell her? That you're complicated. Fair assessment. Eliana laughed, light genuine. She wants to meet you. I'd like that. Really? Really? Franklin took a sip of his coffee. Your mother matters to you, so she matters to me. Eliana felt something warm bloom in her chest. Not the desperate, clingy feeling Harper had called love. Something steadier, deeper. Franklin reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Eliana's breath caught. Franklin, it's not what you think, he said quickly, opening it. Inside was a simple silver bracelet. Delicate, understated, beautiful in its simplicity. It's not a proposal, Franklin said quietly. It's a promise. What kind of promise? That we walk at the same pace. He lifted the bracelet from the box. No rushing, no expectations, no trying to fix each other. Just moving forward together. Whenever you're ready. Eliana's eyes filled with tears. Franklin fastened the bracelet around her wrist, his fingers lingering for just a moment. The metal was cool against her skin. She touched it gently, feeling its weight. I think... Eliana's voice was soft, steady. I think I'm ready to start. Franklin smiled the kind of smile that reached his eyes unguarded and real. Then we'll start slow, he whispered. But we'll start together. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. They stood hand in hand, watching the city lights emerge one by one as dusk settled over the water. No grand declarations, no dramatic kiss. Just two people who'd learned that healing wasn't about saving each other. It was about choosing to stand in the light together. Eleanor watched from a bench 30 feet away, a knowing smile on her face. She'd given them space, but she'd wanted to see for herself. She picked up her phone and texted her son, I knew you'd find each other. Franklin's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, smiled and tucked it away. Eliana looked up at him. Your mother. She has impeccable timing. Apparently it runs in the family. They turned from the river and began walking back toward the city, not toward anything specific, just forward. Eliana's stride was different now. Confident. Sure. She wasn't the shy girl hiding in confessionals anymore. She wasn't running. And for the first time in years, neither of them felt like they needed to. What started as a chance encounter in a confessional when a shy girl thought she'd find a priest, but discovered a man escaping his own wedding, had become something neither expected. Something inspirational. Something worth fighting for. Something real.